Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Survival of the Fittest. It's Friday morning, it's the 4th of March, and we will have hopefully a lovely morning together. It's, as I said, 8 o'clock here in Sweden, and I know we have plenty of viewers in India, where it's lunchtime, I know. So I hope you have a good time. This morning, and if you want to join in with questions, feel free to use the chat forum, so you find it, well, somewhere on your screen. Today it will be all about digital cash, and we will take you from the, well, we will give you all the information, and we have a presenter, and those of you who follow this format, these Friday mornings, you know him by now, Joachim Samuelsson, the CEO, Crunchfish Group. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Johan.
Are you well prepared?
I'm fantastically prepared.
So, if you will give us some kind of short version, what will be the main thing? What I'm searching for this morning? What will you tell us?
Well, digital cash messages, as I've said a month ago, the first webinar where you were moderating, when we talked about Cbdc, that's the secret sauce of the Crunchfish solution, and I'm gonna talk about that. But
okay,
I actually gonna drop a bit of a bomb, I think, in the Cbdc area, which I felt I couldn't. Well, we've already done Cbdc, so I'll do that as well. And then we have had 2 announcements with patents.
Yeah, but
I have to cover that as well. So these are the 3 things I will cover.
Oh, that was enough with the first one. Look at well, sounds great. We will hear all about this soon. But first of all, I will introduce. We have a couple of friends with us, panelists, who will join in later after your presentation. But I can present them right now. We have the founder of Crunchfish and CTO of Crunchfish Digital Cash, Paul Kronholm. Are you there, Paul?
Yes, hello. Good morning to you all. Good day to you.
Good morning. Is it just me that I don't have you in picture?
Yeah, I have some problems with my setup here, so I'm on a voice link.
I see, but you're there.
You very well, and I can see you.
Okay, well, that's the main thing, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, and then I'm so glad to welcome back my new friend, I would say, Senior Business Development for Crunchfish Digital Cash, Gagan Kochar. Good morning.
Hi, Johan. How are you?
I'm fine, and a good lunch. It is still lunchtime where you are.
Yeah.
Okay. I love your. It is a turban, is it?
It is. It's a traditional headgear.
Yeah, it's. And how many of those do you have?
I would say about 42 of those.
Okay, so do you decide in the morning? Oh, I will go for the purple one today, or what decides that?
So it's linked to the kind of the color of the t-shirt or the shirt that I'm wearing, or the suit.
Okay. Yeah, you should have that in Crunchfish, something like that, Joachim. Okay, good to have you with us.
You will be wearing a turban next webinar, Johan. Gagan, send DHL over some turbans. Johan, he just matches his blue suit.
Then I will have the same problems that Paul has today. Oh, with my camera. No, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, Paul is wearing a turban. He didn't want to say.
Okay, well, good to have you back, Gagan, and you will join in when it comes to the discussion after the presentation. And you will give your perspective from India, and well, you know all about this subject. So, what do you think? Should we start?
Sure.
Sure. Yes. And once again, if you have any questions, please post them, because I will gladly pass them on. And I have some questions on my own, but it's very important for you to feel the opportunity to actually get the answers you're looking for. So don't feel that any questions are stupid at all. So just send them in, and I'll give it to you, Joachim. You give your presentation, and we are ready after that. Go for it.
Thank you, Johan. This is it's going to be fun. I'm very much looking forward to this. this I put it in sort of orange at the back there, or at the lower right hand corner. Augmenting payments. We are thinking of changing now. We've had future of payments, but we really think that augmenting payments is probably a better tagline, because that's what Digital Cash is all about. We're not a payment service per se, but we are augmenting other payment schemes, and I think it's good to put that there, because it's always a bit of explanation of what do we actually do. But that's what we do. We augment payments. Today, it is an interesting topic to talk about digital cash messages, because it's really two worlds meeting. It's the messaging world meeting payments, and that creates enormous opportunities. I'll spend the majority of the talk on that. But as I said earlier, I couldn't refrain actually to talk about Cbdc. And what I'm actually going to announce is that I believe that digital cash is Cbdc. That's all you need. You just need digital cash. You don't need anything else. And I'll explain what I mean with that. And then this week, we've announced one granted patent, a very early date on that, 2015. Very happy about that. It's a US patent, but we also traditionally, when we file a new patent, which is of a strategic importance, we tend to release those just after midnight. We're supposed to release them as quickly as we can. And we don't want to release it the same date, because all patents filed the same date counts equally. But 1 minute after midnight, that's as early we can release it. So that's why we had that. And that's an extremely important one, because we are improving our way to handle double spending. We were handling it before, but now we're handling it also with fraudulent cloning as well, which is a very difficult problem to solve. And that is even a generic thing we have solved, not just for double spending, but for any trusted application, how to solve that you can't clone it and have fraudulent behavior. But I'll touch on that at the end. So let's dive into the main topic of today. First of all, digital cash, as we've said many times, it's all about these three steps. You reserve money, you pay, and then you settle. And it's the settlement step. This is where you move money between accounts. That's the third step. And we are a play that complements or augments payment services today. And I really look at the digital cash as a sort of a seamless, integrated service. On top of as different layers on the core banking system, we can have digital cash online. This is where you reserve out money from the core banking system and you have it sort of online. That function is typically sitting at the bank. Then you can have it all the way down to a mobile app, that's digital cash offline. And then, as we're working on right now, actually, is also to deliver it on non-mobile devices. But if I compare to the existing systems of today, then yeah, you have core banking, that's the same. And the core banking system typically serves multiple payment services. This could be for card, this could be for instant payment schemes or Cbdc in the future, that's what it can have. But there is a way of also maybe taking out money from the core banking system and offer a wallet service. This is where you bring in money from, say, bank accounts, and you bring it into a wallet service which is holding money for you that you could use. And that's typically a different company. That could be like, you know, the PayPal service is a typical e-wallet. In India, we have Amazon Pay, and we have there is a wallet within PhonePe, and there's a wallet in Paytm, for instance. And then some offer also prepaid cards that you can have sort of a balance on that as well. So it's that's what exists today. But what we do with our digital cash solution is that we in a very seamless way add this to existing core banking system, that you don't have to take it outside into a separate sort of wallet, the money, but we are sort of doing it just completely seamlessly integrated. And that we think has profound sort of importance. So what we do, we augment payment services. There is an underlying payment service, one of many, and we add desirable features. We've had a webinar when we talked about digital cash benefits that I recommend if you want to look at that. And we sort of do it in two ways. It could either be in the back end, as I said, we can reserve out money to digital cash online, and then from a online or a back end standpoint, we can either just do using the native security protocol of the underlying payment service. That is sort of one way. But what I'll talk a lot about today is the second way we can do it, is that we can have those digital cash messages using public key infrastructure-based security protocol. That is what I think really makes Crunchfish really unique. And we can also do it in an offline mode, having it on a mobile phone, or we can have it also on non-mobile devices. That is also using our digital cash messages in this sort of PKI-based security protocol. So what we always do for banks or for payment services is that we add layers to what they have. As I said, we can have that digital cash online where we are not changing any security protocols. We are just chopping up the transaction into reserve, pay, and settle. That's sort of the middle ground here. But at the bottom there, we have those digital cash messages, which could originate online. You can cryptographically sign something online, or it could be offline because we have a secure environment on the mobile phone, which also then could create those digital cash messages. And everything is based on something called, everything is based on PKI, public key infrastructure. And this is a very standard technique. It's sort of used everywhere, you know, for when an app is signing into the backend and sort of, it's very much using this very standard public key infrastructure setup. And if I walk you through quickly what this is that you have a certificate authority. We can call it also PKI factory that creates or generates certificates that can be used in order to verify cryptographically signed messages, because the messages needs, and in order to send a message, you need a sort of a private key. So a sender here could have that key, and we can have that either online or offline. So you have the key. That means you can send a message to a receiver, a payee, and who is able, by having the certificate public key, to verify it that this is a legit message. And we use this to verify that this is a legit payment. And so what we have is signed data in the form of a digital cash message that goes across from a sender to a receiver. And that's how we verify that we can sort of trust this sort of payment. You can look at this here, the sender here would go to the issuing bank or the issuer to request that I would like to say onboard and get the digital cash offline wallet, for instance. And then that goes to the PKI factory and provides that to the mobile app having our application inside. Google it to understand more. This is sort of very standard things, but it's important, I think, to understand, because our digital cash messages is based on these kind of signed messages. And a signed message is what we see here again. You sign something off with a cryptographic key, you send it across to the payee, and you can have it on your own device, or you could go somewhere online maybe and verify that transaction. What this means, what is interesting, is that payee, that recipient, could be on any messaging platform, for instance, because we're always sending across is a message. We're sending across a message, and there are already big platforms. I have Messenger here. I Snap, WhatsApp. This could be Google Mail or Instagram, just as examples. These could become the acquiring side, receiving those messages, and we can sort of go from there. The digital cash message is then this sort of cryptographically signed data, and it contains typically the payment request and a timestamp, the transaction data itself, who is paying to whom, and what is the amount. But we also have, what's kind of interesting here is that we also provide a URL hook. So the receiver, maybe here receiving just a message, say on WhatsApp, could go to a URL, using that URL somewhere online to verify, just like you see here in the picture. You send up that message and you're getting it back that this is a legit payment. But we also include in our message a hook to the issuer. So the issuer could expand their customer base by a payment to a recipient who optionally, if they are not onboarded yet, could go to the issuer and open a bank account in order to bank that transaction that has just been sort of received. This creates just enormously flexibility. And I'm back to this reserve, pay and settle. And if you look at the reserve step, that's sort of you're reserving out money from the core banking system. And that could be to an online sort of account structure, but it could be also to something that you hold on your mobile phone. And then you can do exchanges with smart chips that could sit on a card or a wristband or a key ring, or even to a feature phone on using Slim SIM technology. But it's all about these then digital cash messages, because these environments from the issuing side can sign out cryptographically digital cash messages. And when you pay, then you need to pay it to someone. And that could either be, like a banked customer, someone who's already onboarded. That's typically what happens today. But you could also then pay it to sort of, if we take the other extreme, to unbanked people who are not yet onboarded. You can pay to them. They are not unbanked, and they could be also that they're not even onboarded in any form or shape. They haven't done anything, no preparation whatsoever. If they want to receive it offline, a payment, then they need to themselves have gone and downloaded a digital cash verifier. That's the second bottom layer here, the digital cash verifier. And you can have that on a mobile phone, or it could actually be a verifier sitting in a cash register, maybe connected with Blipit, as we have also developed. Then a higher level would be that you can have a digital cash that you can top up by blipping, say, a smart card on a mobile phone. You can top these up, and then you have digital cash on a non-mobile. That is then paying from a mobile phone to a card to top it up, and you can reverse it as well, pay it back from a smart chip to a mobile phone. And then all the way up then to, let me take one more level. The digital cash offline on a mobile phone. If you have downloaded digital cash offline, then we are essentially making a peer-to-peer payment, and you have then the ability to pay forward. So the money you have received, you could, if the regulatory allows that and the banks allow it, you could pay it forward as well. But there are many options here of how this sort of could be created here. But it's all based on these digital cash messages. And then the settlement, likewise, we have those digital cash messages. They have been received. And these are the ones we use in order for us to initiate then or do the settlement. This is where we move money between accounts. And we're not creating anything special here, but we are just initiating the settlement, just using whatever rail that the payment came in on. If it's an instant payment, then it will be an instant sort of type of settlement here, with obviously some delays because we have still chopped it up into reserve, pay and settle, but it's on the card rail, we run on the card rail. But it's all about these sort of digital cash messages. I've used this before, and just showing that we have digital cash online at the top left corner, sitting at the bank as an account structure. It could be on-prem or in public cloud. If you go down, we can have digital cash offline as well. This is also where we have that cryptographic key, so we can sign out those digital cash messages. And that creates you the ability to pay without the core banking system if you have digital cash online. And if you have digital cash offline, we can pay completely without any connectivity. If I turn my attention to the payee side, then we have some interesting features. The number one feature there, receive without being onboarded. I think it's completely new. Typically, if you buy a payment or you build a payment service, you always have to think about the issuing side, so the payer side, and the acquiring side, meaning the receiving side. And you have to build both, and it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation. What we have here is the ability to actually build a acquiring side using these social messaging platforms, which will be extremely much more easy and fast to do, and to build the sort of a network of receivers that could use this. If we have downloaded a Verifier, as I said, we have the step 2. We can receive without network connectivity and trust the payments. And then if we also have a digital cash offline ability, we have that balance as well. Then we need a secure environment if we're going to do step 3. And then if that is allowed, we could pay forward without first having to bank the transaction and then top it up by downloading the money again. But we can just pay forward completely in offline mode as well. I believe we have a world that sort of looks like this. We have a privileged world with bank customers that there's a lot of liquidity there. They have their smartphones, and this is sort of that's sort of one way of look at things. But we have also the underserved. And this could be unbanked people that don't even have a bank account, but you can also look at underserved by someone who not yet have a particular payment service. They're also underserved they're not yet onboarded. And it's sort of a big sort of divider between who is sort of on board, the banked ones, or who have already onboarded to a service, and all the people who are not yet there. But what I think we deliver is an opportunity for fantastic financial inclusion, either to unbanked people, but also for people who are not yet onboarded to be financially included into a particular service. So we have our banked customers still, but we open the floodgate, and that's these digital cash messages, and we reach the unbanked people and all these people who are not yet onboarded, because they typically would have, as you see at the bottom left here, they would have some sort of digital handle where they can receive a message. That's all that is needed. And then they could be onboarded, and they could decide that they want to have a verifier so they can receive offline, or they can even maybe onboard themselves to have digital cash offline, and they can start then sort of paying here or exchanging with other smart chips, feature phones, or even paying to sort of cash registers. That was my intro then for the messaging meets payments. But let's move over to Cbdc, because I think this is an interesting area. I think the architecture that is most in the world being proposed is what's called a hybrid Cbdc architecture. This is sort of a 2-layer architecture where you have a wholesale level where the central banks interacts with financial institution or commercial banks in this example here. They interact with that, and it's still the commercial bank that has the user accounts, which goes out to the public. And then that lower level is sort of the retail level. So this wholesale is basically distributing from a central bank to commercial banks, and it's retail, and that is taking it from commercial banks down to the public. Digital cash is very much needed here in order to deliver many of the features that physical cash that we have today, what that represents. And you can have it, as we said, it can be digital cash online, but it can also be digital cash offline. This is the question I posed, that there is a choice. That's why I sort of dressed up as your Orpheus here from the Matrix here, because the whole film is about the choice. You can either go for the blue pill or the red pill. And there is a choice. I've been talking about that for central banks. They could either decide to run the Cbdc as a new currency, just as a currency, and just run it on normal rails. Just like they can handle, in Sweden, we have, certainly our banks can handle Swedish krona, US dollars, Norwegian krona, and the Cbdc the sort of the bank issued Swedish, or the central bank issued Swedish krona would just be another currency. All support is there. Or you could complicate the matter and introduce a new money format. And I think the reason why a lot of people are thinking that is that they are stuck, many central banks are stuck in the notion that they need to digitize the banknote. So a banknote is sort of a piece of paper with a serial number, and now they're going to do it digitally. So let's digitize the banknote. I argue that this is the wrong approach. You should not digitize the banknote. That's not how you would go about to set up Cbdc. But if you rather just see it as a currency, then you basically have digital cash instead of having those sort of digital tokens, which is a digital representation of a banknote. But if you go for the red pill, which is the easier route, I've been talking about that you don't have to change any banking infrastructure. No one has to change in order to get Cbdc, and you have a fast implementation today. And we believe that our digital cash solution is needed in both the red pill or the blue pill. You need it because neither is particularly good at handling what cash represents, offline payment, privacy payment, being inclusive, having a lot of different form factors. I think all that is very much needed. And so you need it in both scenarios. But this is a push scenario. And that's sort of one of the new realization I've had is that not only are the central bank thinking of digitizing the banknote, but they're thinking like they are issuing banknotes, that they need to push banknotes out to the public via the banks. That's how they think. They push it out. So Cbdc, as in the bottom here, is created and pushed by the central bank to commercial banks for retail use by the public. That's the norm. I think that's the whole industry is going that way. But the realization is this, that you don't have to push it. You can pull it. That's really the red pill. Because if you pull it, if you allow the public to pull Cbdc from banks, rather than having the central banks first pushing out Cbdc to bank, what is interesting is that everything that everybody is sort of busy with, they're building blockchains and they are creating minting centers and all of these things is absolutely not needed because you don't need to build a wholesale infrastructure at all. The only requirement to solve for Cbdc is just Crunchfish Digital Cash. We give you everything you need. You don't need anything today. And that certainly is a much faster implementation. So if I turn this on its head, this is wholesale Cbdc in a pull scenario. It means that whenever someone from the public wants to download, top up, maybe here, a mobile phone with some digital cash, at that point, what is happening is that the bank needs to be placed in escrow that same amount that user was downloading to their mobile phone. Likewise, if you do a digital cash online payment, that same amount is then going out, but it's sort of backed by the central bank, and that needs to be put in escrow by that commercial bank. That issuer need to put that in escrow to the central bank. But in this way, central bank don't take any risk, but they don't have to build anything either in terms of minting it, because all the minting that is taking place is actually happening as a pull activity from the public instead of pushing it down by the central banks to the banks and then to the public. It's a complete upside down, and I really believe that this is probably what's going to happen. Looking at the benefits, what digital cash brings to the table. Come on. We have digital cash online. This provides that you could pay without any backend. The bank could be down, this still works. We can have load balancing, and we can have a shared digital cash balance that could be shared among different payment services, and it's all set then online. That's 1, 2, 3. We certainly deliver offline. That means that you need to have a digital cash offline ability on a mobile phone in a secure way, and that's sort of the number 4. And this is all built on the fact that we then can do this digital cash messages. But there is a whole range of 14 more sort of other digital cash message benefits for CBDC. You certainly have interoperability, you have the ease of use, you have inclusive universal service, privacy, smooth onboarding, everything. I talked a lot about this at the webinar we did a month ago. So I recommend you go back and see that one. So I won't really go into it more in detail. But I like to just bring out that it's all about then, I think, financial inclusion. CBDC needs to address these things that commercial payment services tend not to do. But CBDC could take that public responsibility to enable financial inclusion to the non-privileged, the underserved, and allowing a lot of things then that cash represents, but in a digital form. You need to be offline then. You want that inclusive universal service. And what I mean with that is that just like you can always just receive a banknote and you don't have to onboard, you don't have to do anything. You just receive it and you have a value from that national sort of system. In the same way, you should just be able to receive a digital cash message. That's all. And you could verify that you can trust this by using this sort of PKI structure, but you shouldn't have to prepare anything to get started. Just like you receive a banknote, you receive a digital sort of message, and then you're good to go to start. That means that if you can receive a message like that, you could receive it to any sort of digital handle. This could be a donaldduck@gmail.com. No one knows who is behind that one. And you could then have privacy, but it will be within limits because you have just received it. You can't really do much about it. And if you want to do things with it, you have to start banking it. And if you bank it, the bank will start asking questions. But there could be layers here. There could be one level where the bank doesn't ask you for too much KYC if you're just going to do small amounts. But as soon as you want to step up and have more services from the bank, they will do a full KYC, know your customer sort of type of activity. But that's piecewise onboarding. It's a very modern way. If you download an app, they're not asking you for all the setting at once. They ask you for settings when you need it. This is the same principle, the same idea, but we do it sort of over systems here. Why do the full KYC if you don't really need to yet? You can receive a payment, you can start there, but then later on, if you want to do big payments, well, then you can do a full KYC. So we sort of take it step by step here. We certainly have service interoperability, and then with other form factors, we're introducing ease of use as well. So last area, digital cash patents. This is an area where, yeah, we pride ourselves at Crunchfish. We're really a deep tech company, developing sort of infrastructural things. In the area of proximity interaction, we have 16 out of 19 granted already, 19 innovations there. In the digital cash area now, it's getting better. We have now 3 out of 8, and I'll go through that in a minute, just what they are. And we have, of the 12 innovation we have in the gesture interaction area, we have all 12 granted actually. So we are strong at this at Crunchfish. In total, 31 grants out of 39 innovations. That's sort of what we have. And digital cash patents then, what do we have here? Well, there is an overarching, the digital cash online architecture. It's a fairly recent sort of application that hasn't been sort of examined yet, but I think it's a very important one. This is where we have an digital cash online, and we hang the entire structure underneath that as well. That whole architecture is sort of patent pending. The next 5 are all based on digital cash messages. And as you can see, we've already been granted sort of 3 out of 5. I believe strongly that we will probably get the number 2 as well, which is that we originate a digital cash message online using then the PKI. And I think we will probably get number 6 also, where we actually are doing an exchange using PKI in complete offline mode with non-mobile devices. Will be very important, certainly for India, who would benefit for being able to transact completely in offline. But we already have quite a few, as you see, digital cash offline using PKI. This is our original patent application that we filed in January 2020, that it's going through this this PCT process, the international patent process. We have got number 4 initially in Sweden. We are certainly applying for this one in many other countries. It's a very core patent for us that this was the first one we got. And then we just recently announced that the digital cash offline, if you are offline, so you have a balance on your mobile phone, but you are transacting online, you are sort of consuming it by sending it online. This is a US and a Swedish patent. In this one, we won't have the ability to go for any other countries, but it's pretty important. We got it in the US, I think. And then we have that digital cash offline for EMV, which is just that we have a container in the mobile phone holding a balance that we can use for, say, host card emulation using the standard EMV rail. This is for cards. And then the last one, which I think is very, very important, that we have created some sort of offline logical lock, because double spending is always an issue if you talk about offline payments. Double spending is the first thing that people ask about. How do you solve double spending? And we've had ways to address that before, but Paul is also on this call, has come up with a beautiful way of actually securing that you cannot run with multiple clones at all, because that was a potential security risk, that you could continue running maybe on clones here using that balance. But I think we've solved that. And that one has a much broader implication as well, because this is for any trusted application running in a secure environment. Cloning is always a problem. If you have a Netflix license, for instance, you don't want, Netflix doesn't like if you have 10 licenses already, because you start cloning things. But this solves this in a really, really, really nice way. And I'm super excited. And this is one we released just after 1 minute after midnight, the night for today. So we certainly still claim, we're very proud. We think we're sitting with something which is the future of payments, regardless if this is online or offline, regardless of form factor, mobile, web, card, wearables, and regardless of rail, card, instant, CBDC, crypto. I think digital cash is the way to go. All right, that was my presentation, Mr. Moderator, Johan Wester.
Thank you so much, Joachim. Well, plenty of messages today, very interesting. And I see here that we have a couple of questions coming in, so I will soon post them to you. Yes, and let's go to Gaia. I'm just curious, what are your reflections when you have been listening to Joachim?
So I think one of the most important takeaways from what Joachim is talking about, which is digital cash messages, links very clearly to the central bank's aspirations in India from offline payments. They believe that offline payments is the way to go for financial inclusion. And if digital cash messages can actually solve for that, then I think there is a strong link between the two.
Great. And do we have Paul with us?
Yes. Hello.
Yes. What and your reflections, your key messages you have been listening to?
Yes. What I like with this solution is the inclusion perspective, so that we can really bring a digital payment form to hopefully all people on this planet. As you all know, that's something we really need at this moment. We need to connect the world again. And this is one important contribution that Crunchfish can actually make in this situation, that we can bring the possibility for everyone to make transactions and connect again. So I'm really happy about that one, that possibility.
Yeah. I was thinking about the pull and push, Joachim. Is it could it be a bit of both, or do we have can you have a combination with them?
Yes, I think it can be a combination. I think if say if the central bank wants to bring out subsidies maybe to the public, that could very much be a push. You can look at it that way. But fundamentally, I believe in turning it upside down, that you should look at that the public should be requesting all the time. And even that subsidy, as I was saying, that could be arranged by that you just create basically you're not pushing out Cbdc. What you're creating a sort of a balance on bank accounts that, again, people could pull from that bank account. So you don't have to first push currency out to the banks and then people are taking it. You could just in a way create then some sort of balance, and then so you're not really issuing anything and to pull it out. So I think you can still work on the pull scenario where the public pulls money. I think it is a way turning it upside down. But I think the whole world is stuck on thinking, let's digitize the banknote. I think that was the first mistake. The second one is that, okay, how do we issue banknotes? Well, we have a sort of an issuing center that prints all this money. So we need to do that digitally. That's the second mistake, to try to replicate that, because we're going over digitally now. And then you do things in a digital way, you don't copy the analog. And that's what I think a lot of people have been doing.
Gagan, do you agree?
No, absolutely. And I think why should there be two separate currencies to my mind? Because you'll have to, in your mind, if you had two separate currencies, one in the bank account and one in the Cbdc wallet, you'll have to maintain in your mind two separate balances, right? Which again is a very it's a mind-numbing thing in a way. Right? If there's a common balance from which you are also paying digitally as well as using the regular currency, I think it's a fairly simple ask.
I will go to the questions from the chat forum. I see we have both from the Zoom webinar chat forum, but also from the LinkedIn chat forum. So I will try to cover them all. And I realize I don't really understand what I'm saying now, but you will listen carefully and get the answers. It's Mr. Sanjay Thakur, he has written interest-bearing or non-interest-bearing Cbdc and use case for inclusive credit enablement. Can we create some solution around lending? And in India, we are moving ahead with OCEN projects. So can we have Cbdc as payment layer for OCEN? Did you get that?
I think I've never heard OCEN before, but I would say absolutely. I think it's whether it's a balance which is created using credit, or if it's a sort of a positive balance on a deposit, doesn't really matter. For our technology, would work the same. There is a balance there, whether it's created by credit or lending or whatever. It doesn't really matter. It works for that as well. Okay, and Gagan, anything you want to add?
Yeah, so all the banks that we are talking to so far have all evaluating digital cash, like Joachim said, for positive balances as well as possibility of integrating those with their loan balances that a customer is having in their hand. So I think from that perspective, whether it is Cbdc or not, the digital cash product itself is ubiquitous. It can be used irrespective of whether it's being used with an existing balance or a loan balance, right? So so I think that's the answer to that.
Okay, well, thank you. And let's continue with another question for Sanjay, and I don't get this one as well, but the most important that you do it. Let's see if I get this right. Can Cbdc replace the need for having bank AC altogether, and it is expensive to maintain, so why not replace and create solution around it? Contrarian, but would love to seek your opinion. Okay, that's the.
If I have a go at it, I think this that there is a lot of things that the banks do in terms of KYC, and if you sidestep the banks who have already processes for doing know your customer and having that public interface, if you're going to take away the banks, someone needs to do it, because you still have requirements from the regulator. And if the regulator want to take it on themselves, yeah, I guess they could, but I think it's they might then disrupt the whole payment ecosystem to introduce then, let's say, a CBDC here. And then they need to start doing things which the banks are currently doing, which they're not really. A central bank, I think, is the banks of the banks. I don't think it's the bank of the public. So I think it is still very good to have the financial institution, the banks, as these intermediaries. But it shouldn't put burdens on them. Right now, I think in a lot of countries in the world, they're asking them to upgrade their sort of switches and their systems in order to handle a new money format, which I think is absolutely not necessary. And right now, with this pool scenario that I'm talking about, you don't even have to do any. All the projects going on in the world right now is how they're starting with to mint the money from the central bank perspective and then push it out. Not even that is sort of necessary if you turn it upside down with a pull approach instead.
Paul, we can't see you, so I don't know if you're waving, but I ask you, well, out in the dark space here, if you're there and if you have anything to add in this subject.
No, but I think this is an interesting area, of course. As we all know, the banking world is also changing. It's not only the payment services, but also the banking sectors. And there is also this deregulation that has been going on for a few years, opening up traditional services from banks to actually private companies. So it's quite natural that we see this introduction of new ways to interact with the customers and how to make payments and so forth. So I think we are just seeing the beginning of this transformation actually for the banks and also for the central banks. As you know, we have a situation also about the currencies that are debated. So it's a lot of change that will come. And as Darwin is quite appropriate in this theme. I think we are in a state where everything is basically changing faster and faster.
And I think the word change, with the many meanings, it's very useful in this area.
Yeah.
Okay, Gagan, were you waving?
Yeah, I was. So see, having CBDC in a wallet with you is the equivalent of having cash in your wallet, right? Would you like to have all your cash in your wallet, or would you like to keep it somewhere, securely, on which there is some amount of interest being earned, and placing it with an organization which knows how to manage your money, giving you that mental security that there's at least some balance which is sitting there for your future, right? So that's probably one reason why I would personally not, take out banks out of this equation, right? People love to get interest on their saving accounts, on their fixed deposits, right? So just having CBDC and keeping all the cash in your wallet is probably not a solution, as I see it.
Time is running, and I think we should have. I would like to move on to the area of patents. How important are they? It might be a silly question, but are they the core thing with this idea, Joachim?
They're not preventing us. Someone has asked us, "Oh, so you need the patent before anyone are interested to talk to you?" That's not the case at all. But they are very, very good for us in order to protect our intellectual property. And I think we have thought about the payment space in a sort of a different way than the rest of the world. The fact here, as we talked about today, messaging meets payments. It is an extremely interesting proposition because you don't have to spend too much time building an acquiring side. You are using the social platforms. And as you saw, we have already 5 distinct sort of patents in the area of digital cash messages using this PKI. And that's very strong. That's really strong. And we have this is a whole carpet of patents in this area. So I think we are to reckon with. I think it's very hard to go around us, and that's why patents are, because we are a small company, and a big one could easily surpass us. But the patent prevents that to happen because we sit with IP here, which is protected.
But how much of your solution is patent protected then?
The whole thing, as you saw, there are 5 aspects of digital cash messages. If I just talk about that, if it originates online, that's patent pending. If it originates offline, then we have it with the aspect of just in its core, but also settling from both sides, both the payer and the payee. We have it where you have it on your, the Viki solution, you have it on your phone, but you are going online in order to transmit your message to the receiver. And we also have it as an interaction with non-mobile devices. So this is, this is sort of, each of those patent application probably have something like 20 to even 40 sub claims. So it's just an enormous richness of protection there that we have created for ourselves.
Are there any competitors that try to develop design any DC solution that is close to you?
Yeah, there are pockets of ideas, but I think we've taken a different route. I think we proud ourselves in a way, but what's really useful is, I think it's Paul and I who are the 2 inventors for what we've done in this area, but we are not payment experts. We didn't come from that. So we looked at it. Crunchfish always looks at the problem from the perspective of the human. What is the best way to do this? And not being restricted by, technology. I think the Cbdc case of how they've gone in the wrong direction. They started with, let's do blockchain. Why? There's no need whatsoever to do a blockchain solution for Cbdc. So they start with technology and they try to, push everything into that sort of structure. And I think that's a common mistake. But let's start with the requirements. Let's start looking at it fresh. And the fact that we don't have a background in payments have helped for us to be very original in our thinking.
We have a question here about patents from Frederick Namnix, something like that, Namnix. Hey, why can't you get patent number 5 in other countries? Paul or Joachim?
I think I can take, I'll take that, Johan. We have, the process of patenting is this, that you apply for a patent in one country. We tend to do Sweden. After 12 months, you can go for an international patent. So that means that you get another 18 months before you have to go national in various countries. So that means that there is a window of 30 months, 2.5 years. Then you need to decide what countries are you going for. If you are beyond that deadline after your initial filing date, you can't ever file. And this one, number 5, was filed already in 2015. So we're way past the opportunity to file in other countries. But we did file very early, and we've actually been fighting for this in many conversations with the US Patent and Trademark Office. And we got it just last week. We had it already in Sweden, but I think I actually waited until I got the US announced, and then we published it. So this is a very important, but that means that's how it works for all applications. After 30 months, whatever you haven't decided on in terms of nationalization can never ever be, you can't go back.
Okay, I see we've just, 6 minutes left, and we have a question here from Taron Mohan. And it sounds like this: 100% offline mode of digital payments. 1. Let's see if I can get it here. I pay. Here's the situation. I pay a merchant $3 using my stored wallet on my phone. Wallet balance comes down by $3. 2. I use the same digital payment message to a second merchant, and they both accept it. 3. How do you prevent duplication of the same payment message? Okay, who want to go for that one?
Yeah, I can talk about it a little bit. I mean, as you know, in a payment situation, one example is, for instance, that you have a meeting between two people. So you want to pay for some merchants, and one way that we do utilize is that we have a payment request ID. So we have the payment itself will be associated with a unique identifier. and that can only be consumed at a specific destination. And also, our payments are, like we have said, messages, so they have a destination. So there is always an address or a destination identifier signed into the message. So it's it's like when you're sending a letter at the post office. The letter will arrive at one particular place and nowhere else. So that's 2 things. And then of course there is a lot of other technology features inside where we can detect double spending, and also we have a technology framework around how we basically create the payments. So we are protecting that environment as well. So it's a very interesting question, but that's how we basically solve those things.
Okay, and I thank you for that question, Taron.
There was another Johan. There was another as well. The first one was, I guess, Tarun. We know him well. As a good partner of us. He is working in India, so he's paying US dollars, and we have a patent pending on that idea that if you are paying in foreign currency, you are denominated maybe in your wallet in Indian rupees, and if you have downloaded also, if you have an FX table, a foreign exchange table, we will debit you in your rupees, but then we will fix that if there is any sort of deviations from that FX table. What could have happened is that at the time when you made a payment, there is sort of your FX table is old, but that will be a little bit of a debit or a credit that will happen online next time you bank it. But we have a patent pending for that idea. That's one example of all these patent pendings we have for those things.
Yeah, thank you. And Taron writes thanks. So it got through. A final question. I'm thinking of we're living in troubled times in the world and in Europe, and the war in Ukraine. And I'm thinking about the sanctions in Russia. Had DC made it easier or harder with sanctions? Would you say, Joachim, or anyone?
What was your question, Johan? If these?
No, I mean the situation where we have sanctions, and we have if we had
I don't think sanction is very directed towards a few people, but I think what is creating right now in the Ukraine, people are rushing to the banks to take out physical cash. The bank is running out of money. Imagine if they instead were able to take out the digital cash instead, which then they wouldn't run out, and they can use that as a currency paying with it. So I think our solution is very important for blackouts or for these very, very difficult times as well, that a central bank would need to think about these really weird. But the sanctions, I don't think it's sort of that's there is some oligarchs who doesn't have big yachts anymore, but that doesn't affect the digital cash situation.
Okay. Well, it's 9 o'clock here in Sweden, and it's breakfast time, and I think Gagan, he's starving and he's longing for his lunch. So if I would just bring with me 3 key messages, what do you bring with you, Gagan, from today?
I think I am very happy with the financial inclusion aspect of what digital cash brings, because that's the need of the hour in India. And the other aspect that I really love about the messaging part is that it supports, it kind of eliminates double spending and fraudulent cloning of the digital wallets as well. So in an offline environment, definitely these are 2 critical pieces which banks look for.
Yeah, and Paul,
so that's my takeaway.
Okay, great. And Paul, what do you take with you?
Yeah, actually, I only have one point.
Yeah, it's okay.
And that is that this gives the possibility to connect people and all over the world, and that's what we need right now. So I think this is one step, one piece of a puzzle that we can bring into this. We need to start to talk again in this world. We cannot just isolate ourselves in different ways, and this is a good way to do that. For instance, payment is one of the most it's one of the oldest transaction-based thing. It's one of the best ways to make people meet up again. So I think we should move ahead with this as fast as we can.
Thank you, both of you. Paul, the invisible man in turban, and the visible man in turban, Gagan. Thank you so much for joining. And I'll give it to you, Joachim. Thank you so much for your presentation. And now I can see we have a schedule. We have new dates for March. Tell us.
Yeah, as normal, the second webinar in the month is going to be gesture. We're going to talk about use cases, probably going to be AR, VR, automotive, public screens. Joachim Nydemark will cover that in some good detail. We've swapped the order simply because there is a big Holi festival on the 18th of March, so we won't have any Indians. So we're actually going to talk about the Crunchfish shares and warrants to describe that a little bit. I think that could be interesting for our investment community. The 25th of March, then we do have Indian representation, and then it's Tone Tag, who is we are developing a solution in India for a big wallet in India. They're going to come and talk about our collaboration. And then on 1st of April, April Fool's Day, we're going to talk about security, because I think there is a lot of ways to, which is very important here. You know, we talk about jailbreaking or rooting or cloning or tampering, or a lot of these buzzwords of going on, and what we need to think about, and we're gonna have a whole session on it on April 1st. That's also on Digital Cash. That's the plan. Sort of
lovely
for once.
And yeah. I just recently heard about Holi. Gagan, just tell what is Holi about?
So it's the festival of colors and also the festival of love and brotherhood, right? So it kind of signals the end of the long winter and the opening of the summer in India. So it's a good time. So I guess that's what Holi is all about.
Okay, well, thank you. That we will hear all about that later on, I hope. So thank you all.
Johan, one thing I really like about the Holi is that this is a holiday that you play. That's what they say. I was dressed up for Holi 2 years ago, and they say, "Oh, you're going to go out and play Holi." It's nice that it's a holiday that is just fun, and it's just 1 billion Indians can't be wrong. I think we need to bring it to Sweden as soon as we can.
Yeah, let's play Holi.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm looking forward to my turban next week or whenever it will be. So thanks all for joining in. Thank you, the panelists, and thank you watching wherever you are. I hope you enjoyed this session. And if you'd like, we'll meet in a week. Next Friday, we will have our next Survival of the Fittest. Here's Mog Deep with Survival of the Fittest. Thank you.